At that, I say let us get back into a game called Changeling Part 2. Alright, so we got through all of the normal chapters, and we're starting chapter 1 of the Fairy Folk, which is Ewan's Route, which... I think there were 4 chapters of the normal one. So in sense, this is chapter 5. But here we go. I was standing in a strange room that felt like it should be familiar, yet the furniture, the items, they were all foreign. Strange. Across the room was a door that I headed toward instinctively, my bare feet padding silently on the carpet. Beyond that door was home. A home I desperately wanted to reach. A home filled with the tingling smell of rain and moss, with little sound but the soft rustle of trees in the wind. I exited the claustrophobic room, passing from one shadowy place to another uninterrupted. My vision was strangely distorted, like looking down a long tunnel through broken and dusty windows. It occurred to me somewhere at the back of mine that this was a dream. Even so, I continued. I reached the bottom of the series of steps, my feet coming to a stop on a cold floor. Too many foggy thoughts crowded my head. In my ears was a strange muttering voice whose words I couldn't make out. I have to leave. I had to leave, but I wasn't sure which way to go. Let's go to the door closest to me. Yes, the door closest to me. That was the way I had to go. It was the one that led to where I needed to go, wherever that was. My hand closed on the door handle, and I let myself out into the cool night air. From far away came the lonesome call of an owl as I shambled through the freezing grass. My feet moved almost of their own accord. Even if I wanted to turn back, I wasn't sure I could. It's so hard to think. My mind wanted to nod off and let my body just go where it wanted to. And part of my mind, still vaguely conscious of where I was going, I realized I'd paused at the edge of the fairy ring. I stared down at it curiously. It felt so far away, like looking through the wrong end of a telescope, like I was watching from somewhere outside my body. New mushrooms had already sprouted to replace the ones that had been ruined, but the latter were still there too. Delicate domes crushed and left as food for worms. Spencer. I was almost startled when I spoke his name. My voice was strange, raspy, weird. It didn't sound at all like myself, and yet it was still somehow familiar. But Spencer was unimportant now. I had somewhere I needed to go. I was barely aware of letting myself out the gate. My feet carried me down the path to the trees, but it was as if someone else was pulling me there. If I could make it to the sanctity of the trees, then I would... What would I do? Nora! This time the voice was not mine. It was familiar, but... Nora! I knew that voice. Is it Mom? I think it's Mom. Nora, stop! Huh? I tried to answer, but my mouth wouldn't work properly, and my feet moved forward, even as I tried to make them stop. Cold. That wasn't really what I'd been trying to say, but it was the first word that came out. Reality seeped back in, and suddenly the hold of the dream had on me snapped. And I was back, and it was cold. And I was standing just at the tree line, staring into the dark. A warm arm closed around my shoulders. So we've gone a full week now, huh? You okay? I thought you might be sleepwalking or something, but I guess you wouldn't really know if you were. Elliot? So you recognize me now? I nodded, trying to pull away. Elliot's part of this whole magical realm. But he was warm and holding me upright because my legs weren't quite sure if they wanted to hold me up or not. You okay? Yeah, I think so. Come on, let's get you back home. I didn't argue with him. My brain's still trying to shake out the fog from that little sleepwalking adventure. So Elliot is a vampire, and so it makes sense that he's like out at nighttime. Also makes sense as to why he doesn't like mornings, now that I think about it. Outside. Elliot helped me back up to the gate, and now that I was awake, I realized my feet were numb with cold. Legs in my pajamas were soaked as well. Elliot stopped just outside the backyard. You'll be okay from here. Yeah. To my surprise, he didn't question me further about what happened, but I could tell he was concerned. I mean, obviously, I've been sleepwalking my way into the forest at night. Definitely concerning behavior there. Try to give him a reassuring smile. I'll be fine, thanks. Even though I said that, he waited by the gate until I was safely back inside. I took a moment to clean myself up and remove all evidence that had gone out, wiping up the dirty footprints I'd left behind. Then I made sure to shovel the paper towels bin deep in the bin, hiding them from view because Mom would have noticed them otherwise. It felt like forever before I managed to finally stagger upstairs back into my room where I could really analyze what had happened. Not that there was much to analyze. I tried to go out to the woods again, in the end. As I changed into a fresh pair of pajamas, I tried to remember the dream I'd been having, but it was already fading. All I could recall was the feeling of trying to get somewhere important. The real concern was the sleepwalking itself. It's become a serious issue. If Ellie hadn't stopped me, who knows where I'd have ended up this time. I pulled the blankets over my head and snuggled down. I needed to find out what was going on, and fast. Definitely couldn't let myself keep doing this. I'm so tired. Sitting on the edge of my bed, rubbing my eyes as if that was somehow waking me up wasn't, helping. I felt like I hadn't gotten any sleep at all. The stupid sleepwalking thing was really taking it out of me, and dealing with the last thing I needed given how complicated the rest of my life had gotten over the last week. Tell me about it. Didn't feel like a week should have been able to make that much difference, but it did. Oh man, did it ever. Though not for wanting to try and keep things simple, trying and failing horribly, but that was another thing entirely. Or was it? The sleepwalking could be connected to everything else. How was I even supposed to know? With a groan, I staggered out of bed and went to pick an outfit and go wash my face. I've been trying so hard to keep the supernatural from bleeding into my home life as much as I could, but this sleepwalking thing wasn't making it easy. It's a bit paranoid about it, to be honest. There was some kind of paranormal secrecy act in place, which Allie had mentioned last week, that literally made it illegal to talk to normal people about the magic community. In most situations, anyway. The rules were nebulous, and while they did allow for accidental exposures, I'd been very strongly warned about being careless. The main issue was that I was supposedly a legitimately rare magic race, so telling my family about it was out of the question. The fact that magic was involved made all the difference in terms of how dangerous it could be. Not just magic, but fairy magic at that. But to be fair, I couldn't say with certainty whether the sleepwalking was paranormal in the first place, much less magical, so it might be a moot point. I was still hesitant to talk to Mom about it, though, because, well, it didn't feel like a normal sleep disorder. And honestly, even without laws in place, I doubted my parents would believe me if I told them my inner fairy was making me go frolic in the night. What's at night? If I was still questioning the whole fairy thing, I could only imagine they'd probably have my brain scanned to figure out if I'd gone nuts. And that was just my parents. Spencer was an entirely different problem. I pulled my clothes on wearily. All the efforts to keep this stuff away from home, and here I'm causing problems. Something as stupid as sleepwalking. Hey, don't be hard on yourself. It's not like you have a choice. So desperately just want one part of my life to remain normal. One thing. I guess I couldn't really take all the blame upon myself. My sleepwalking was definitely not the only weird thing going on at home. There was also that thing to contend with. Oh. I scowled as I sat at the island, cupping my hands around a coffee mug, side-eyeing this little brown creature taking a bath in the kitchen sink. Where'd this come from? Well, maybe it was going for a swim. I tilted my head as I watched. Nah, definitely a bath. Ew. I watched it pick up a sponge and start scrubbing itself. It cannot be sanitary. How did no one else notice that? If they couldn't see the creature, surely they'd at least see a levitating sponge or something? Seriously, fairies just not have a sense of modesty at all, because it seemed to have no problem with me watching it scrub its backside, not that I wanted to watch it. Exactly. I looked away, wrinkling my nose and wondering how safe it was to drink my coffee. Nora! Yeah, I started at the unexpected intrusion, almost falling off my seat. Jeez, I didn't notice him coming in. Seeing me nearly faceplant on the floor amused my friend in the sink, because it fell out with a splat. I could hear its creaky giggling behind the island. Are you so jumpy lately? Just didn't sleep well. What do you want? Spencer gave me a long look. I was saying, did you want to lift to school today? I raised an eyebrow. Wait, aren't you grounded for like another 3 weeks? Mr. I'm ditching you is offering me a ride. Really? Kind of think of it. He looks really tired. Maybe his afternoon job was harder than he expected. Not to mention that things at home have been rocky, to say the least. Not my fault, though. Stupid Brown thing. Household spirit, as Allie called it. Taking a strong dislike to Spencer. They were supposed to be helpful, but you made them mad. They could be a major nuisance. Spencer had made this one mad. I sipped on my coffee carefully as I studied the dark circles under Spencer's eyes. Allie is driving me, as usual. Had no idea what he was up to. Frankly, it's better both of us didn't ride with him. It's better for both of us if I didn't ride with him. Considering I was taking the blame for the household spirit shredding his homework and hiding his keys and stealing his shoes and... Do it yourself. I will, thanks. He seemed weirdly disappointed, but surely he couldn't be that shocked I preferred to ride with anyone but him. Spencer paused in the door, glancing back at me. You spend time with anyone not in that club anymore? It hasn't even been a week, but it's like that's all you even do these days. Spend time there or with other members somewhere else. What does a club got to do with anything? You know, people say a lot of weird things about it. Some of the people in it, too. Is there a point to this? I just think it's interesting that that's the club you chose to join. Joined it because Allie is in it, and she has to drive me home every day because you can't be trusted. He scowled at me to grab my things, but I just rolled my eyes in mock outrage. He'd pick the fight, not me. Go all you want. I wasn't the one who left you at school, was I? I left him in the kitchen and started outside. I had no idea why he constantly had to poke at me about stupid stuff like that. I wasn't a fan of bickering. I'd assume he wasn't either, but he sure seemed to like to pick fights. I nearly made it out of the driveway when he grabbed me by the arm. What do you want, Spencer? You know, I found the keys in the fridge this morning. I didn't know, but congrats, I guess. Stupid brown thing. My homework's still missing. You're struggling with the concept of making a point more than usual today. You know, I know it's you. It's not me. As I've told you several times already. I mean, not that I had proof or anything, so it wasn't as if I couldn't understand why he was blaming me, and I couldn't exactly tell him it was the household spirit. Stupid fairies. I yanked my arm free and stepped away from him. Until you actually catch me in the act of supposedly stealing your stuff, maybe you should keep your accusations to yourself. Oh, I will catch you. Well, good luck with that. I turned on my heel and stalked down the driveway. I heard Spencer slam the front door a few seconds later. As soon as he was gone, I let my shoulders droop as I rubbed my eyes. Stupid brother. I was lucky I was too tired to really get mad at him. Sleepwalking didn't end up being the death of me. Spencer and that stupid fairy would be. I hated that Spencer blamed me. Even more than that, I hated that I completely understood why he did. He was hardly going to assume Mom and Dad were doing it. I was the only logical choice. Why is that stupid fairy so mad at him anyway? Still hadn't even worked out that much. Not that it mattered why. Whatever the reason, it was mad at him. And it was making both of our lives miserable because of it. Given everything else in my life at the moment, it was a little side drama I really didn't need. I was so absorbed thinking about it. I was nearly all the way down to the bridge before I realized I hadn't actually told Allie I'd meet her elsewhere. She'd probably show up at the house soon and wonder where I was. Oops. Well, I'm already here anyway. I'll send her a text in a minute. She had to come this way anyway to get to school, so it's not like it was out of the way. The bridge is beautiful, as always. Covered with a canopy of leaves above, dappled with light below. I passed over it every day, but I hadn't actually walked down since the incident with the Spriggan, at least in part because Allie had told me not to. I wanted to, though. I couldn't pinpoint why since there was nothing down there anymore. I just felt a weird pull. It's strange how being down there caused this strange nostalgia to creep over me, though. I'd never been to this neighborhood before we moved in. I paused briefly when I set foot on the edge, wondering why I'd even come down here again. I glanced behind me, but Allie's car wasn't in sight, so a little peek couldn't hurt, right? Just to quiet whatever strange impulse was pushing me to come back here? Leaving my school bag beside the road, I carefully slid my way down the embankment. If Allie came this way before I texted, she'd see my bag and stop. I grimaced as my boots sank into the mud down by the water. Rains and rains, it swelled the creek. Still quite shallow, but I definitely didn't want to fall in. I found a mostly solid patch of ground at the bottom where I could just safely look around and found myself unexpectedly facing off the deep shadows lurking under the bridge. Suddenly, I didn't think I wanted to be there anymore. It was just a normal bridge, and yet something felt off as I peered under it and through to the other side. Wiggly, vague shapes seemed to waft from the shadows, and the heavy, wet smell of soil and trees reminded me of my sleepwalking. That smell always permeated my dreams and left a feeling of disquiet deep in the pit of my stomach. I backed away, deciding that I'd seen it. I could go now. There was no Spriggan, no evidence that I'd even been there, and I'd seen everything I wanted to see. As I climbed back up the embankment, I felt strangely jittery. I just really wanted to leave. I wasn't quite to the top when I saw the familiar figure on a motorbike coming up the road toward me. Hey, is that Ewan? He slowed as he approached. He came to a stop a few feet past where I was standing. Propped the bike and carefully pulled off his helmet. I waved sheepishly, not having really expected to see Ewan this morning. Gave a long look where I stood halfway down the embankment. Amusingly, he looked even taller from this angle, like a disapproving giant glaring down at me. Nora, what are you doing down there? Well, I glanced down to the creek. Nothing much. I had a fight with my brother. I sort of flounced my way here without realizing, and you know. I shrugged helplessly. I didn't know how to explain it. I just wanted to take a look at that was all. Ewan shook his head and inched his way partially down the embankment before extending a hand. Here, come on, let's get you out of there. I reached up gratefully and pulled myself higher, my feet sliding on the wet grass and leaves. Going down had definitely been easier. Ewan had no trouble pulling me back up to the road. He released me as soon as I was at the top, and I scraped the mud from my boots on the edge of the asphalt. Definitely not the best plan to climb down in these boots. At least they were nicely waterproof. Here. He handed me my book bag, which I slung over my shoulder, and then we just stood there. Awkwardly. Silently. Thanks for stopping to help. I mean, you know. I thought you managed to tumble down into the creek somehow. I'm not that clumsy. I'm not like you, actually. You're the clumsy one. No. That's not you. That was someone else. My bad. Well, given your skills dismounting my bike the other day, I wasn't sure. This has nothing to do with that. The only way I'd tumble into the creek is if I took a deliberate swan dive off the bridge. He smirked slightly. And then the awkward silence was back. Jeez, why is it so hard to talk to him sometimes? And what the heck was Allie? That's school. Ewan raised an eyebrow at that query. Okay, I guess. Well, I'm not rescuing classmates from ditches. That was hardly a rescue. It's not exactly a ditch either. Huh, my mistake. Maybe you'd like to go back down and climb out by yourself then. Well, that just seems like a waste of energy. I shot him a sidelong look. We hadn't really talked much since that day in the library. I still found him to be kind of an enigma, standoffish at times, flat out rude to others, strangely nice at others. There's also definitely a sense of humor in there. It seemed like it was reluctant to surface sometimes. I studied his profile silently and soon found myself staring at that collar he always wore. You know, I noticed that too. I wondered, fashion statement or... That's how he keeps his head on. I thought about that old urban legend with that little girl that wore the ribbon around her neck to keep her head on. That had always struck me as weird, even as a kid. Didn't that seem like a ribbon would quite do the trick? Didn't seem like a ribbon could quite do the trick. That heavy collar, leather collar probably helps anyway. I wonder how the whole head thing works anyway. How does it actually detach and reattach? Or maybe I really didn't want to know. I realized suddenly that Ewan was staring back at me. Shoot! I quickly looked away, flushing silently. I hadn't meant to stare like that. I sneaked another look at him, but his expression had closed off, and it felt like a wall suddenly went up between us. We needed a distraction, or maybe I just head back home and wait for Allie there. Let's just leave. I think I'm going to go head back toward my house. Allie will probably show up soon. I gave him an awkward smile and started that way. Wait. I paused and looked back at him, but he shuffled awkwardly as if he wasn't sure what to say now that he'd gotten my attention. How are things? With you, I mean. Well, I guess they're as well as could be expected. Hey, you're a fairy, right? I mean, you said you were, so that was kind of a dumb question. Yeah. I know in my eyes, trying to work out as if you're saying yes to being a fairy or to my question about being dumb. That doesn't matter. Can I ask for advice on something? You know, fairy related? What sort of advice? Well, there's this fairy that lives in my house. It's kind of annoying. I mean, well, I'd be fine with it for the most part, except when it takes baths in the sink. Baths in the sink? Yeah. So it's a brownie or something similar? Brownie? Type of household fairy? A lot of the houses in our neighborhood have them. Oh, I didn't know the exact name, but yeah, I guess that's probably what it was. Anyway, it's just that it's been harassing my brother. Nothing serious, just pranks, but stealing things, hiding stuff. And you thought because I'm a fae, I must know how to deal with all other fae as well, right? I mean, I didn't necessarily assume that, but I guess I did think you might know more than me, yeah? You seemed weirdly annoyed by that idea. I wasn't sure why. Was it weird to ask a fairy how to deal with fairies? Ewan crossed his arms over his chest, radiating irritation. You're fae. Do you know how to deal with it? I'm still pretty new to this fairy thing. You've been doing it for a while. Just because I'm fae, it doesn't mean I know everything about fairies in general. I know enough to get me by. And unlike you, I don't have a lot of interest in learning more. You're the one who said I could ask you for help. I don't know why you're getting so testy about me taking you up on that. I'm not being testy. I'm just telling you to not get your hopes up about running to me every time another fairy rears its head. I didn't run to you. I asked a question. Jeez, my mistake. Ewan is a brownie neophyte. Got it. I'm not a neophyte. Well, I was gonna say idiot, but that seemed rude. Hey! There's a short blare of a car horn just as a car crested the top of the hill and came toward us. It was Allie. Looks like my ride's here. I guess I should at least thank you for that daring rescue earlier. Yeah. Look, I don't know what you're doing down there, but for the record, you need to be more careful. Yeah. Walking down an embankment to a shallow stream is truly not for the faint of heart. Probably thought that the first time you did it too. And at that time, a spriggan tried to drag you off into the trees. This time there wasn't a spriggan. Lucky for you. Yes, also lucky for me that cranky Dullahan stopped his gallant steed long enough to rescue me from the evil clutches of air. I mean, a knight in semi-shiny leather isn't quite on par with a knight in shining armor, but I shrugged. Some of the tension eased out of his shoulders at the gentle teasing. Cute. It's a gift. I gave him a hopeful smile that he didn't return as he instead popped his helmet back on. I wonder if there are times he wears the helmet just to hide the fact he doesn't have his head. See you later, then. Jumped back on his bike and revved the engine, driving off just as Allie pulled to a stop. I watched him go before joining her in her car. Allie gave me a curious look as I slipped into the passenger seat. What are you doing down here? With Ewan? Oh, and for the record, I super appreciate the informative text I got beforehand. Sorry, I meant to do it, but I got a little distracted. By Ewan? Oh, please. Oh. Also, can you stop looking at me and please watch the road? You haven't answered my question yet. Ooh, I can blame it on Spencer. That's totally what I'm going to do. Just had to get away from Spencer, that's all. It wasn't untrue, and I really just didn't want to lecture about wandering around outside. Not only was it annoying to be told I couldn't do it, something as innocuous as go for a walk, I also didn't want Allie fussing over me again. More fighting. What else is new? It does seem like it's been worse than usual lately. It's that stupid household spirit. The brownie? Brownie, whatever it is. It's still on a rampage. Oh no. Remember what I told you last week? It didn't seem like to me. Yeah, it didn't seem to like Spencer. Yeah. Well, the pranks are getting worse. It's just not just the keys anymore. It's his homework, shoes, anything, everything. So he's blaming me, of course, but because who else would he blame? Can't tell what's going on. I'm not going to admit to it because, first of all, it's not me. And second of all, admit it. If I admit to it, then it keeps happening. That's going to be an even bigger problem, and I can't make it stop. That's true. So I have to pretend Spencer is just going nuts, which sucks. Oh, man. Yeah. Do you have any idea how he made it mad? Excuse me. Do you have any idea how he made it mad? Nope, not a clue, really. Maybe we can find a way to banish it from the house, then. Banish? It sounded like a little dramatic. Besides, I'd been in the house first. Making it leave seemed unfair. It was only bothering Spencer. What about finding a way to appease it instead? We could ask Brenna or Ewan about it, but... Yeah, well, I already asked Ewan. You just bit my head off. Brenna, I don't know. I don't think she'd answer. That's amusing. I got what you did there, Nora. He bit my head off. Yeah, that's probably true. There are probably some books in the library about it. Yeah, because I needed another topic to research. I'd already been trying to read up on fairies in general, not to mention try to figure out anything I could about my own past. Why I might disappeared, what could have happened to Spencer's eye. It was going pretty slow as it was. Adding brownies to listed topics wasn't something I was happy about. Allie gave me a careful look. Of course, it's not the worst problem, is it? I mean, you can deal with Spencer. There's something else bothering you, isn't there? How she'd do that? I sighed. Well, there's something else. I guess it's probably making me have a little less patience for Spencer's usual crankiness. You aren't planning to talk to me about it? I didn't want to worry you, and I guess I wanted more time to mull it over myself. I didn't even know how big a deal it even is. What's going on? Don't freak out, okay? Saying that makes me I think I need to freak out. Okay, look. Starting since the night before I joined the club, I've been occasionally sleepwalking. Okay. And not just in the house. What? Don't freak out. I'm not freaking out. I'm just concerned. Look, it's only happened a few times, but yeah, I've woken up outside a couple times. Do you have any idea how dangerous it is for you to be wandering around at night at the time of year? Any time of year? At any time of year? Right, but especially right before Samhain. I'd stop it if I could. I can't believe you weren't planning on telling me this. I wasn't planning on telling you today. That doesn't mean I wasn't planning to mention it at all. You should have told me the first time it happened. I thought it was just stress. Stress doesn't make you sleepwalk outside. It might. Look, I'm not going to sit here and try to diagnose your sleep issues. It could be because you're fae. Fairies are known to have some odd behaviors and compulsions. It could also be stress, but until we know for sure, we have to find a way to at least keep you inside. Yeah, well, locked doors don't seem to provide much of a barrier. I might be able to come up with something. I have a friend who could probably help. Friend? Another witch in the club. I don't think you've met her yet, but she's nice. I have some ideas, but she's much better at the kind of thing than I am. I wasn't sure I wanted to let another person in on it, though. I mean, there was no reason not to. It was just personal. Broadcasting it to strangers was a bit... Let's ask her. At school, Allie and I huddled together against the cold as we headed inside. We usually arrive early for Allie's extra credit work in the office, but little bridge excursion had set us back. The hall was busier than usual. We split up as she went to check in, and I decided what to do with what little time was left before class. After dropping my books by my locker and taking a bathroom break to clean the last of the mud off my boots, I didn't really have time to go up to the club room like I'd been doing the past few mornings. I went to no research or reading before class, which was a little disappointing, but I just headed to literature instead. There wasn't much time before the first bell anyway. There were already quite a few students milling around the class when I got there. Danny and Elliot were swamped by a group of friends on the opposite side of the room, as usual. They waved, and as I waved back, Danny motioned me over. Elliot, head propped up on his arms, appeared to be nodding off. As usual, I shot Danny a smile as I sidled alongside his desk. Sleeping Beauty is out again. Literature seems to be a decent cure for his insomnia. Class hasn't even started yet. As his friends took turns trying to prod Elliot awake, Danny gestured me closer. Looks like we're getting seats moved around again. If you end up with Elliot, do me a favor and keep him out of trouble. He's getting in trouble a lot? Well, he falls asleep a lot. Ah, I did notice that. But what if he ends up with someone else? The chances I'll end up with him are pretty slim. Danny leaned a bit closer and quickly looking toward his friends, who are still teasing Elliot. I think you'll find people in our club often end up partnered together in this class. Really? Why would that be the case? Unless the teacher was a cryptic too? I was kind of weird that they keep us together like that, but in the end I could see why it would be more convenient for everyone that way. Sure, I'll help them out if we sit together. Danny looked pleased at that. He shot me the usual friendly smile. Glad to hear it. I can't help but worry about him. He doesn't always pay the closest attention to his grades. Aw. Already worried about he won't graduate? Elliot does nothing but worry me half the time. I laughed quietly, amused by his mothering. Hope he finds a way to handle his insomnia a bit better, though. Not sure how possible that was whenever the reason he probably wasn't sleeping was because he was a vampire. Well, he usually manages. But between both his part-time jobs, it's gotten a bit tougher. Both of them? I knew he interned with that weird agency Ollie worked at. I had no idea he had another job too, though. Danny didn't get a chance to answer. Mrs. Roberts stepped inside and the chattering quieted down as we were quickly assigned new seats and partners. Danny had definitely called it. I was in fact assigned to sit with Elliot. Danny was with Allie across the room from us. Mark and William were each still alone. I had no idea why they'd be separated from the rest of us. We're grouped up, whatever. Maybe Mark had taken to eating his classmates, so they had to isolate him. I doubt that, but the idea makes me laugh. Elliot gave me a tired smile as he slid into his desk. He really did look worse than normal. I knew he didn't sleep much at night, but the circles under his eyes were deep and darker than before. His yawn kind of ruined the greeting, but made me chuckle. That's gonna make me yawn. Tired? How could you tell? Hope it wasn't my fault. I actually barely remembered that happened last night before, but I knew Elliot was the one who got me back up to my house safely. I gave him a sidelong look, but he didn't seem like he was going to bring it up or anything. He yawned again, head dropping in his hands. I suppressed a giggle as I watched him. Poor guy. Tell me when class is over. No, you are going to be reading Shakespeare with me. I hope you know. He gave me a pleading look. Nope, no naps for you. Sorry. Oh, man. Class was interesting. I already missed my previous reading partner, though. It was at least funny listening to Elliot read. We were both yawning so much it was also torture. I started elbowing him in the side every time he started to yawn, just because each time he did it made me yawn too. Oh, stop it, game. You're gonna make me yawn. Oh. Not that I'm brutally tired, just thinking about it. By the time the bell rang, my head felt like it was going to crack open if I yawned one more time. The rest of the morning went pretty fast. I was grateful to finally be heading to the cafeteria for lunch. I stepped through the door, scanning for Denny and Elliot, since I typically sit with the two of them. They had pretty much adopted me after my first day back. I didn't know if it was just a sense of responsibility or if they really wanted to sit with them, but I wasn't questioning it for now. It was better than sitting alone. Hey! I started over to the usual table, ignoring the voice at first. I just assumed it was someone yelling to their friends. Hey, you! I glanced over my shoulder and came face to face with an incoming pink blur that slammed into me. Sorry. So sorry. I looked up, rubbing my poor smashed nose. Ow. I knew this guy. Drake or something? He was a club member, but we'd never spoken before. His pink hair was hard to forget, though. Not so much because it was pink. He wasn't the only kid in school with brightly colored hair. Hair dye was a thing. There was just so much of it. Hi, Nora. Hello? Alright, sorry. I forgot we haven't really been introduced yet. The boy beamed and held out his hand. I'm Draken. Alright, Draken. That was his name. Did you need something? I'm a friend of Ewan. He said I should come say hello. My brow furrowed at that. Ewan asked one of his friends to say hello to me? Ewan had friends? His pink-haired tornado was one of Ewan's friends? This did not compute. Ewan told you to say hello to him. Why? Draken frowned, slightly confused. I watched him stand there for the longest time, gears almost visibly turning. I wonder if that's his natural color. Now that was close Now that I was looking closely, I realized he also had a strange mark on his forehead. This little star thing right here. It was mostly obscured by his hair, but it looked almost like a scar or something. I don't know, really just seemed to think I should. He shrugged and smiled again. It's still nice to meet you. I laughed slightly. I really could not imagine this guy being Ewan's friend. Talk about an odd couple. So want to get lunch somewhere else? Where else exactly? This was the cafeteria after all. Draken looked around again and dropped his voice even more. It's a club secret. Come on. Okay, that piqued my curiosity. I couldn't lie. Club secret involving lunch? Mysterious. Sounds interesting, yeah. Where exactly are we going? Draken grinned. I can say Grayson. Grayson grinned. Tongue twister. Grayson grinned. Somewhere really nice, I promise. Not off school grounds, I hope. I'm pretty sure that's not allowed. Grayson grabbed my hand and dragged me away from the cafeteria, though I didn't technically agree to go with him yet. People in the club go there a lot, don't worry. I always worry when people are unnecessarily cryptic. I'm not an unnecessary cryptic. That's not what... Never mind. I was too unsure if he was teasing or had actually misunderstood to bother explaining what I meant. Anyway, you'll like it. I promise. It's fun. It's a safe place to get away from school for a while. Well, if everyone goes there, I guess it's okay? I hoped he was just taking me to the club room. I mean, technically it was a secret, but if that's where we were going, there wasn't much reason to be mysterious about it. He did take me straight up to the club. Are you gonna knock? But he didn't stop once we were inside. He pulled me straight over to the library door and knocked, but not the 3 straight knocks that led to the library. I figured we were going somewhere mysterious. And then he pulled it open. I felt a rush of warm air. What on earth? I stepped through curiously. I don't know what it was that I expected, not the small sunny courtyard I stepped into. I looked around in amazement and delight. The warm air felt more like early summer than mid-autumn, and the foliage was all bright green, so I had no idea where we were. Definitely not in Pine Hollow. Wow. Isn't it great, isn't it? What is this place? Drayson laughed. It connects the club to the murder. That little cafe in town? So the school connected to the courtyard, clearly not in the same state, or maybe not even on the same continent, and that place connected back to the cafe in town? It seemed unnecessarily complicated. Cool, but complicated. Corbin's family owns that, you know. Oh, I don't know that, actually. Come on, our table's over here. He started toward a table close to the small fountain. Someone else was already sitting there, though, someone unfamiliar. She turned around, lifting an eyebrow. She glanced our way. No, that's Brenna, right? I see you managed to drag her here. You were in on this, too. That I struggled to believe. That whiny giant seemed to think you'd benefit from spending time with us. Really? I didn't mean to sound so incredulous, but I wasn't sure how I'd benefit from spending time with them. Drayson and Brenna were an even stranger duo than Drayson and Ewan. Hold on a second. Whoa. Oh. Apparently he's distressed by your ignorance about Fae. Though this one doesn't even count as Fae to begin with. She leveled a scathing look at Drayson, then at me. Not that you're much better. I mean, I could tell she was insulting me, but that was kind of weird. I didn't even know what it meant. Jason just ignored her as he pulled a chair out for me, smiling blithely. Don't worry about Brenna. She always says things like that. Anyway, look, we ordered you a drink. And indeed, at the place he was directing me to sit was a white cup with a silhouette of a black crow on it. Where's this from? The murder. We ordered lunches from here when we eat here. His smile faded and he bit his lip. I didn't know what to order for you, though. I hope tea's okay. I smiled slightly. He looked so worried about it. Like I'd be mad if he ordered the wrong thing. Tea's fine. I'm usually more of a coffee drinker, though. He made a face. But it's so bitter. You put sugar and milk in it, you know. He wrinkled his nose as he took a seat across from me. Brenda looked like she was barely paying attention to the conversation. I pulled the lid off the cup to check the contents. Whatever tea it was smelled slightly floral. It wasn't really much of a tea drinker, but I got the feeling if I didn't drink it, Drayson would probably feel bad. So, you ask about Ewan. Drayson, you said Ewan was the one who thought I should come here? He nodded. He caught up with me this morning and asked me to show you around and introduce you to Brenna properly. Weird, and why wouldn't he just do that himself? I looked around the courtyard. There were a couple of other people, a blonde girl I didn't know who was sitting with William. But Ewan was nowhere to be seen. I thought he might be getting food or talking to someone else, but he still hadn't shown up. I glanced at Brenna, who was watching a bird hop along the edge of the fountain with almost disturbing intensity. There were surely better options than her. So where is he anyway? Is he not coming? Drayson frowned slightly. I'm not sure, actually. But sometimes he has to head home to help his family. Not too often, but if they're understaffed and need help. During school? What does his family do? They run a bakery. They're really nice and they make amazing things, but this time of year lots of people get sick. Colds and flu, you know? But Ewan wanted to meet some other Fae and get to know us all. Huh. I wasn't sure how I felt about that. I was just fine hanging out with a witch, a werewolf, a vampire. It wasn't like I had to hang out with my kind or whatever, though I suppose I could take the opportunity to try to learn some stuff. So what kind of fairies are you? If that's not too rude to ask. Oh, I'm not Fae, really. But you just said that. Maybe I just misunderstood. I got the impression they both were, and that's why Ian wanted me to meet them both. I'm a unicorn, though. We get along with Fae pretty well, and many of us live in fairy with them. A unicorn? My brain struggled to grasp that. I knew I was staring at him, but come on. I had put up with so much since learning about this world. Magic doors, spriggans, wizards, and now unicorns. Pink-haired unicorns at that. This is ludicrous. Grayson tipped his head to the side and gave me a bright smile. What? It practically sparkled in the sunlight. Good lord. I could definitely believe he was a unicorn. I looked away, covering my mouth with my hand, not wanting to spew my growing cynicism about cryptics at him. Nothing. Brenda suddenly let out a distressing yowl and leaped out of her chair at the bird. What the heck? Everyone in the courtyard stopped and stared at her as the bird fluttered to the sky, leaving Brenda to glare after it. Well, everyone braced Drayson. I had nearly jumped out of my skin, but he just sat there calmly, barely seeming to register it. Are fairies all really this weird? Am I this weird? I really wished Ian was around. Grayson wasn't that bad, but Brenda was definitely freaking me out. The day passed really quickly after that, mostly because I was occupied with a rather weird lunch I'd had, not to mention the revelation that there was an actual unicorn wandering around our school. And Brenna being weird. Not to mention Ewan. The lunch thing had been an attempt to be nice, right? Then again, I had to sit with Brenna the whole time. Maybe it was actually revenge of some kind. With a sigh, I shut my locker and trudged up to the club room. I'd missed my morning research, but at least I'd get to do some reading during club hour. None of the other club members stuck around long. Examining was coming up, and all the interns were apparently being run ragged on errands or whatever. They tended to pop in right after the bell and then vanish quickly. I'd actually asked if I could help, but was summarily rejected on the grounds that I was new and had other things to do. Why I was massively irritated when I got to the club in the time to see others filing out. Not at them, mind you. I just knew that most likely Violet was waiting inside with a broom. Because since I was apparently the only one free in the afternoons, that meant I got asked to straighten up after everyone left. And sure enough, Violet was standing in the library door when I walked in. Ah, Miss Lewis, I was just about to head to the library. I wonder, yes, I'll clean, again. He raised an eyebrow at me over the top of his glasses. But I pretty much joined this club so I can clean up after everyone, right? I suppose if you're going to sulk about it, you can leave it for one of the others. I'm not sulking. I was just hoping to actually get some reading done today. Oh, my mistake. It looked remarkably like sulking. I glared at him as he vanished into the library and threw my stuff on the sofa. Okay, yes, that was bratty of me, but seriously, magazines scattered about, crumbs on the table. Did I look like a maid? I let out an annoyed sigh and I got up to straighten the room. It really wasn't really that bad. Not bad enough to take any longer than 10 minutes to do a quick clean. It's just the principle of the matter. I knew the others were busy, but I did have more important things to do too. Like reading up on how to appease a cranky brownie in order to appease my cranky brother. The thought of Spencer made me frown. Not to mention trying to figure out myself how I could fix things with him. Maybe, hopefully. I pulled the trash bag out of the small bin in the corner and neatly tied it up. I guess I'll take it down when I leave. Set it by the door and retreated back to the sofa. Even after all that, I still had time to do at least a little reading. I pulled out my journal, the one where I'd been keeping notes about all my paranormal research, and opened one of the books I'd borrowed from Vilos. Maybe I'd find something quickly this time. I'd been reading for a little while when the library door opened and Ewan was stalked in. He barely glanced my way as he trekked across the room, but he paused by the door. Does this need to go down to the dumpster? I looked up surprised and he gestured to the bag I'd left in the corner. Oh, yeah, I was going to take it down when I left. I'll take it. You don't have to do... He was already out the door with the trash bag. There he was, doing it again. I really couldn't figure him out. I settled back up on the sofa and tried to focus on my reading, but my thoughts were almost annoyingly preoccupied with Ewan. I kept glancing toward the door as if I expected him to come back. He didn't, of course. I really couldn't understand him. Sometimes he was so gruff, just like now. Didn't say hi, stop, talk, anything. But he just, I don't know, he stopped to check on me, and when he saw me crying on the first day, he gave me a ride home, helped me out at the bridge, and had Drayson come say hello and took the trash out for me. But he completely rebuffed my attempt to ask for advice about the brownie. And then again, fairies were kind of like that, weren't they? Nearly all of them were notoriously mercurial. Look at this one, a female fairy that liked to murder and feed on men. At the same time, she would herd goats for farmers and guide lost children home. Funnily enough, it reminds me a little of that lady Spencer and I used to see in the woods when we were little. Not the murdering men part. That would be terrifying, but we had frequently seen this green-clad lady who was always really sweet. She'd always let us back home, fretting and worrying we'd get lost. And then there was the brownie. They were supposed to be helpful, protective, but you made them mad, they'd torment you, ruthlessly. Speaking of the brownie, I got so sidetracked reading about some of the other things I hadn't really found much on them. It was kind of hard to stay focused when there was so much material and so many fairies were just fascinating. And Allie would be back any minute too. My phone chimed almost as soon as I thought about her, and sure enough, it was the text letting me know she was downstairs waiting. Well, brownie issue would just have to wait until tomorrow. I stacked my books neatly, toying with the idea of taking one home. I did it for a moment, but ultimately decided to leave it there. I might just read his collection of folklore to most people, but I didn't trust Spencer. If he found it, who knew what he'd think? I didn't need to do anything that would make him even more paranoid. Hopefully it wouldn't be a big deal to wait one more night, assuming I could find anything about appeasing an angry one to begin with. I hurried out in the parking lot, quickly spotting Allie leaning against her car. Hey, Nora. I waved as I picked up the pace, jogging toward her. We pulled out of the car a few minutes later. Allie chatting away while I muttered the occasional word, nodding along. I was too lost in my own thoughts to pay too much attention. I almost didn't spot you until Allie said something. What's he doing down there? His bike was propped on the side of the road, and Ewan was halfway down in the ditch doing something. I have no idea. I craned my neck back as we passed, but he was already out of sight. He's such a weird guy. Though I didn't think I had a right to say anyone was weird anymore. I cast a sidelong look at Allie. I wondered how well she knew him. It's kind of awkward asking about him, though. Knowing her would lead to assumptions and all sorts of annoying teasing. So what's Ewan's deal, anyway? Do you know him very well? Allie shot me a surprised look. She smiled, but to my relief, no teasing. I don't know much about him, honestly. He's kept to himself a lot since moving here. The rumor is that there was some kind of major thing at his old school. I don't know the details. Anyway, his parents own a bakery in town. That Fairy Forest Bakery. Not very subtle, are they? Nope, his dad's a fae too, A Dullahan, right? Yep. He's a pretty funny guy, actually. Probably not at all what you'd imagine, but I've heard Ewan has some issues with him. Really? How come? I don't know. Being a crypt is pretty hard on everyone. Even if you have a parent who can help you out, I assume Ewan didn't really take the whole head thing well. I heard he used to be really outgoing, before his fae traits asserted themselves. Yeah, I guess having your head randomly fall off would kind of kill your social life. No joke. By the way, I tracked down some help for your brownie problem. Not to mention the sleepwalking thing. Aw, Allie, you're the best. Oh yeah, I'd forgotten I texted her about that. Oh. Allie nodded, drumming her fingers on the steering wheel. My friend Shelley, she's an amazing witch and really helpful. You've never gushed like that about me. Allie looked back at me, her gaze solemn. I hadn't told you this part yet, but truth is, you can only be friends with the same type of cryptic. You'll never miss me. I heard you really hit it off with some of the other fae. Yes, hit it off, that's the word. I mean, I was totally seduced by Drayson's pinkness, by Ewan's broad shoulders and Brenna's, whatever. Brenna's whatever? That's about the best description I've ever heard of her. Are all fairies so weird? Nah, you just met the weirdest batch. I swear, everyone's really nice, though. You're gonna fit right in. Even with Brenna? Well, there are exceptions. But I promise Shelley's normal. And okay with cross-species discussions. We can allow it just this once. Anyway, I'll text you with details later. Shelley needed time to prepare some things. Okay. Try to be careful tonight. I definitely. I waved Allie off, waiting until she was out of sight before heading into the house. Everyone else was still out, so I went to the kitchen to kettle on some hot chocolate and started up the stairs. Just in time to see the brownie bouncing his way down, a sheaf of paper in his hands. I snatched them up quickly, and sure enough, it was some of Spencer's homework. The brownie stopped and stared at me. Come on! He blames me for this every time, you know. Brownlee simply blew a raspberry at me and flipped backwards off the stairs into the shadows, as brownies are wont to do, I suppose. I sighed and headed upstairs to return Spencer's homework. Let me guess, he's going to catch me in the act and blame me. Berries were definitely weird. Chapter 2. In over my head. I see what you did there. Stifling. My throat was dry. Good point. Thank you. Hydration. Probably should save. The air was thick, heavy. The air was heavy, thick with unpleasant smells that clogged my nose and made it hard to breathe. I had to get outside. I couldn't stay in this place. There was a whisper right at the edge of my consciousness, leading me forward through the dream I had to follow. At some point, the cool wood floor gave way to wet grass and freezing cold. I have to go somewhere. But where? Where was I going? I didn't know. I did know that I wasn't alone. When I turned my head, I realized there was a shadowy lump trotting along beside me. What is that? Oh, tell me what it is. My vision was hazy. Cat! Leave. It took me a moment to realize the raspy voice was my own. The sound of it was so strange I stopped in my tracks. The cat bounded forward, getting a good few feet ahead of me before stopping. Back arched, fur on end, and spitting in fury, it barred my way. I took a step back as reality crept in. Cat stepped nearer again, almost howling at me, fur still on end. It took a swipe at my feet, and I took another step back. Claws caught the edge of my pajama pants and raked over my ankle. The sudden pain brought me straight back to reality. Where? Outside again. I looked around wearily. I was quite a ways from the house, down near the bridge. Dang it. So when we left then, when we moved away, the sleepwalking probably stopped because I left the magical area of Pine Hollow, or wherever this place is. So now that I'm back, it's like recurring. It's reinvigorating my sleepwalking. It's bad enough that I was roaming around at night at all, but if I kept going out on the road, someone's going to see me. I could not let word that this get back to my parents. Then again, it was probably better than traipsing out into the woods. I pulled my shirt closer to me, for all the good it did against the night air and that cat. It had settled down and was waiting a few feet away. The white patch on its chest stood out starkly in the moonlight, but the rest blended into the shadows, except the bright yellow eyes. Did you try to stop me? It yawned and stretched, then came back toward me. It took a weary step back, but it followed until it was rubbing up against my legs, purring. Welcome warmth, though it did little stave off the cold. This is the witch. Sally. That's Sally, right? Then it was moving again, walking past me, back toward the house. Or at least, maybe it's under Sally's control. I cast one last glance over my shoulder before following. I stopped every few steps, looking back to make sure I was behind it. You're not a normal cat, are you? I mean, stupid question. What normal cat would wake me up and escort me home? I vaguely wondered maybe it was Allie's, familiar or something. Witches had those, didn't they? Or maybe it was Shelley's? She was the one preparing some kind of help to keep me from wandering off at night. Guess it's too much to expect you to be able to talk. Cat looked over its shoulder at me, letting out a soft mew. I swear it was scoffing. Well, it's for the best. I'd probably be freaky anyway. The cat led me straight up to my front door and sat on the lower step, watching as I stopped with my hand on the handle. Thank you, kitty. The cat stood, meowed, disappeared over the fence. I watched it for a few seconds, but quickly retreated inside when a gust of wind reminded me that my pajamas were not meant for lurking outside in mid-autumn. I stopped just inside, shivering in the foyer, and now that I was back inside, anxiety set in full force. We had come up with better way to keep me safe than a weird cat. Even with my animal companion, I'd made it pretty far. I could not keep this up. Hugging myself, I hurried back up to my bedroom and slipped into the welcoming warmth of my bed. Beds aren't naturally warm. They warm up when you're in it, so I'm just going to assume that I'm warming it up. And it's like no one's been in my bed. I hadn't been gone long enough for the blankets to... Okay, well that explains it. I didn't think long for the blankets to cool down completely. That was comforting at least. Still needed to get a better solution though. That was the last thought I had before I finally dozed off again. Morning. I was tired, so very tired. I sat in the kitchen, propping my head on my hand as I leaned against the island. If I didn't, I was going to faceplant into my breakfast, or just fall off the bar stool. Don't worry, the brownie will pick me up. Maybe both in an epic display of grace. I was trying to ignore the frustrated conversation filtering in from the family room. Spencer had been rummaging all over the house with Mom, and while I would have loved to help them on their search for the clothes the brownie had stolen, I wasn't hugely thrilled at the idea of looking for Spencer's boxers. Because apparently the brownie had stolen them. All of them. I might have found it funny this time if I wasn't so tired. I stared down into my nearly empty mug, contemplating a third cup of coffee. Probably not a good idea if I wanted to spend the rest of my morning jittery before the inevitable crash by lunch. Sleepwalking was really taking its toll. I rubbed my forehead wearily, biting back another yawn. It took a minute to realize Spencer was standing in the doorway watching me. But he didn't have the usual glare, he just looked lost. We stared at each other in silence. I should probably know better than to initiate conversation, but I just hated these awkward silences so much. I hated not even being able to talk to my own brother. Spencer started to leave the kitchen, breakfast forgotten on the table. Hey, Spencer. He stopped and looked back at me, but said nothing. He still thinks I did it. You okay? He stood silently, two odd socks peeking out from under his pant cuffs, bag still dragging from one hand. Then he dropped his bag by the door and came back to the counter. I raised an eyebrow as he sat on a stool and pulled his breakfast over. Okay, silent breakfast then. That's an improvement? Maybe? Silent breakfast is probably better than another argument at any rate. I was just turning my back to my coffee when I saw the brownie sneaking up on Spencer's school bag. I glared at the brownie and it stopped in its tracks. I mouthed the words to it. Don't you dare. The brownie, one foot still held up in the air, gave me a long, considering look. I lifted an eyebrow, hoping I looked more menacing than exhausting. The little fairy shrugged and did an impressive pirouette before disappearing down the hall. Stupid fairies. Spencer finished his breakfast before me, shuffling out of the kitchen with his bag. I heard the front door open and waited for the bang of it closing. And waited. Frowning, I turned as I heard shuffling footsteps come back to the kitchen. Nora? Oh boy, here it comes. Did you want to lift to school today? Again. Maybe he wants to talk to me. We don't get a chance to talk much, do we? I frowned, wondering why he was so determined to do this. Maybe some kind of weird desperation? I already said I'd ride with Allie. She's probably on her way. Fine. Whatever. He walked out of the kitchen as Mom walked in. She stood there, giving me a depressingly maternal look of disapproval. Oh, here we go. Nora. I sighed, bracing myself for the inevitable. What? He's trying, honey. I hate seeing the two of you fight like this. I hate how I'm always the bad guy when he's the one who... Who what? Just then, wasn't he extending an olive branch? I don't know. Nora, just try, please. I know you hate fighting with him. Don't give up on him. Now, I know don't give up on him now that he's finally willing to try. I bit my lip, trying to bite back a retort to that. Why did I always have to be the bigger person? Yeah, we're twins, aren't we? Fine. I'll try. I grabbed my bag and started out the kitchen. If he picks a fight with me, you owe me ice cream. Deal. I grinned and left her there. Spencer was at the front door getting his shoes on, and I pulled out my phone and checked the time. Wait. I'll come with you if Allie isn't left yet. Just let me text her. What made you change your mind? Curiosity. What? You have to have a reason for offering me a ride when you don't have to. I decided I want to know what it is. I can't offer you a ride without a reason? No. No, you can't. Are you seriously even asking that? You hate me. You'd never volunteer to spend time with me without an ulterior motive. He sighed, but I didn't. I noticed he didn't deny it. I pulled up my contact screen and sent Allie a text. Hey, have you left yet? Just about to. Okay, you don't have to stop by. Spencer's taking me to school today. What? The hell freeze over. Mom badgered me into saying yes. Maybe I should wait in the parking lot in case I have to break up a fight. Thanks for the vote of confidence. I really hope the two of us could at least make it to school without fighting. Then again, our track record wasn't the best. Looks like I'm riding with you. Okay, I'll get the rest of my things. We went back upstairs and decided to go out the front porch to wait for him. I flopped on the top step and twisted my neck slightly. That brownie needs a solution today. Man, this was tough. Not all fun and exciting. This paranormal stuff definitely needed more robes, cool scarves, and hot guys. Ewan's face flashed in my mind as I thought that. Ha! I scowled. Hot guys that weren't stone-faced giants with an inconsistent sense of humor. The door opened at that moment and Spencer came out, huffing softly in the cool air as he shut the door behind him. Ready? Sure. We didn't get far before I learned why he was so intent on getting me alone, where there was no referee to threaten to ground us for fighting. I'm sick of my stuff going missing. I rolled my eyes. Great. Totally owe me, Mom. Sick of you blaming me for it. There's no one else, and I'm supposed to believe Mom or Dad is doing it? Yep, should have expected this. Mom usually intercepted any argument that happened at home, and we didn't see each other enough at school for him to yell at me there. I didn't know what to tell him. If I said I didn't know what was going on, it would be a lie. I couldn't tell him that it was the household brownie that he'd upset. He neatly backed me in a corner, and I couldn't do anything but play dumb. Maybe you're doing it just so you can blame me. Give me a break. If I was doing it, what would be the point in asking you about it? How am I supposed to know how your mind works? Is this revenge? You haven't done enough to me already, so you have to make me miserable now too? Isn't that my line? So now I'm the bad guy. You always have been. You know that's not true. Why'd you even ask me to ride with you if you just wanted to shout at me? Spencer slammed on the brakes and the car skidded to a halt. What the hell are you doing? Get out. I stared back at him. He had to be kidding. What? If you're not going to tell the truth, then get out. Are you serious? We're doing this again? Last time you got a month of punishment. Riding by myself is worth a month more. Fine. I grabbed my bag and slammed my way out of the car, feeling sick to my stomach. I hated this. I hated him. I hated myself. He wasn't right. But I was just gaslighting him to protect the club. I hated that. We didn't even get out of the freaking neighborhood. I was still standing there with the door open when Ewan sped past on his motorcycle. I heard him skid to a stop just behind us and looked over my shoulder to see him walking his bike back to us. He lifted his helmet visor and looked at us curiously. Everything okay? I looked away from him. No, it wasn't. Car trouble? Spencer reluctantly got out and glared at him. The car's fine. Ewan raised an eyebrow. Why are you both getting out? You were both getting out of the car, right? Neither Spencer nor I spoke. That's probably enough of an answer. I was heading in early for the club. Did you want to ride, Nora? I licked my lips nervously, looking between the two of them and trying to decide how to handle this. I could let Spencer win, or I could stand my ground and suffer a tense ride to school to prove a point. Is he going to give me a choice? Yes. I'm going to force this one on Spencer. I quickly decided that I was not letting Spencer win this one. He'd offered me a ride, he was going to follow through. Or so help me, I would make sure he was stuck working with Dad and Grandpa for the rest of the school year. No thank you, Ewan. I appreciate the gesture, but my brother's taking me this morning. Spencer shot me a glare over the top of the car, but what surprised me was the way Ewan's lip curved up slightly. I see. You sure about that? Yes, I am. He very kindly offered to take me this morning. I think he wanted to make up for being a huge jerk lately. Wasn't that nice of him? Oh, yeah. He's a real hero. I guess he decided to stop for some sightseeing on the way. Or was he just making you do it? I gave Spencer a long look. Well, let's just say I volunteered after he insisted. I see. He reached behind him, pulled something out from back of his bike. Catch! Something round came flying at my face without further warning. I barely had time to catch it. His extra helmet? Ride with me. I said my brother... Yeah, I know what you said, but I'm better company. Huh. Jury's still out on that one. The ghost smile was back. I at least won't try to make you walk just for remarks like that. I shot a Spencer a glare, then slammed my car door. Okay, you win. I walked around the front of the car, gripping the helmet tightly, but not without shooting Spencer a venomous look. You lucked out today. Don't ask me to ride with you again. In fact, why don't you just not talk to me again while you're at it, ever? Fine by me. And leave my stuff alone. Jumped back in the car and slammed the door before speeding off. His stuff? The brownie. Ah, brownie problem. Yeah, I stole his underwear today. All of them. He snickered softly. I was surprised to see that. It wasn't a laugh exactly, but it was the closest he'd come to one since I'd known him. I can't pity him for that one, really. Then pity me. He's still blaming me for it. Like, I'd want to touch his gross boxers. Man, watching you two makes me glad I don't have to deal with that crap. Lucky you. I fidgeted with the helmet and looked up at him seriously. Thanks. For stopping, I mean. Ewan shrugged. You look pretty upset, and frankly, I don't trust your brother as far as I can throw him. And I have to say, at the moment, I really want to see how far you can throw Spencer. Sometimes it's tempting. What he done to me, you make you dislike him so much. Ewan shifted uncomfortably and looked away. He quickly plopped his helmet back on his face, obscuring all but his eyes. He stares at me. Does? Ewan straddled the bike again, motioning for me to get on. I got on carefully, remembering that he told me the first time he'd gotten me a ride. We have 3 classes together, and yes, he stares. Huh. I thought you never went to class. I go to some. Don't take it too personally. He's pretty much suspicious of everything I do, including joining the club. I strapped the helmet on tightly. Ewan looked over his shoulder seriously. Look, I'm telling you this for your sake and his. You're Faye, and he's not. It'd be best if you keep him as far away from all this as possible. I know. I'm trying. Good. We're going. Okay. I propped my feet up and wrapped my arms tightly around his waist as he started the bike and revved the motor. Moments later, we were speeding off down the road. At least, it felt like speeding. He was pretty good wind block, but it was still cold. I clung to him and tried to not think too hard about Spencer. This is the second time Ewan came to my rescue in the morning. He always happened along at the right moment somehow. I unconsciously tightened my grip around him. He tensed for half a second, then leaned forward, gunning the engine. The movement pulled me forward as well, crushing me against his back. My face heated up, but there was no way I was letting go of him at this speed. Pressing against his leather jacket, I was assaulted by the scent of leather. Something else that was sort of earthy and masculine. Oh god, I need to stop going around smelling people. Huh, though I refused to acknowledge it was my fault, guys smelled so good sometimes. The ride to school was short, and Ewan was definitely driving fast. We arrived there in no time at all. He rolled into space and stopped carefully. For a moment, neither of us moved, until I realized he was still clinging to him like a wind-blown lemur. I released him quickly and staggered out the bike with far less grace than I would have liked. Ewan pulled his helmet off and swung one leg over like a pro while I fumbled to get the helmet off. I wonder how bad my hair looked as I handed it over to him. So while you were driving, I started wondering, is this going to be one of your typical questions? I have no idea what you mean by it. Yes. Go ahead. Well, I was just wondering, the head thing. What happens if it comes off while you're riding a bike? Ewan gave me an exasperated look. That's a pretty stinking annoying question. Do you ever consider that some of these topics might be a little sensitive? Well, it did occur to me. But I'm genuinely curious. I mean, I've never met a Dullahan before. You don't have to answer. First, that usually happens at specific times of day or during emotional distress, so I just avoid driving during those times. Usually? If something unexpected happens, I just go back for it. Somehow that mental image made me smile a little. That had to be annoying. Have you considered using those bungee straps things to tie it down? I'm considering using one if I can strap your mouth shut too. Are you threatening me? Has anyone ever told you that you ask way too many questions? No. Yes. He scoffed as he stowed the spare helmet. I guess asking dumb questions is better than fainting at me. I did faint at you. He looked over his shoulder, a small smile on his lips. Well, I'd rather you just ask openly than try to avoid talking about it altogether. Thanks for the ride, really. Eventually, I figured out how to get off the bike without nearly falling on your butt. Short legs and heels aren't a good combo for riding a motorcycle. You might want to start at least wearing lower heels. Can't do much about the shortness, though. Hey! And wear a warmer jacket next time so you don't have to squeeze the life out of me the whole way there. Hey! My face went hot again as he smirked and started away. I never said I'm riding with you again anyway. Nora. Yeah, I thought you were riding with Spencer. Did you just get here? No, but I said I was going to wait around in case I had to break up a fight, didn't I? Man, you really don't have a lot of faith in us, do you? Allie just shrugged. I sighed in return. It's not like you're wrong. Spencer kicked me out of the car before I even left the neighborhood, so I rode with you and... He kicked you out of the car? Yep. I really need to have a talk with that boy. Maybe she could talk some sense into him. To be fair, it's not totally his fault. Something happened to him 5 years ago. Something I don't remember, but that probably has to do with me being a fae. On top of that Brownie's also still messing with him. Spencer knows something weird is going on, and even if it doesn't make sense, how could I possibly steal every single pair of boxers he owns? Someone had to have done it. It really did that? Yes. I don't think they found him yet. I hate the position it puts me in. I either have to lie or play it off like he's crazy. Yeah, I know he's not fond of the C word. Well, I heard it enough before we left here. Even if I don't outright say it, he hates me for just invalidating everything he says. The whole thing makes me so mad, but what else can I do? I don't get why it's okay for Elliot's family to know he's a vampire, but I have to hide all this. Well, I told you that the rules vary a lot. The fact that you're Fae really complicates things. It would be dangerous to go around blabbing about the Fae to people. I get that, but it's frustrating. I know. Come on, let's go in. It's freezing. And the bell was about to ring anyway. For a change, I was sort of glad to have a partner prone to falling asleep in literature. Elliot nodding off gave me just time to just think or sulk or whatever. I stared down at my playbook silently. The gap between me and Spencer was growing wider, and there was nothing I could do about it. I hated it. I heard Mrs. Roberts coming up from the row behind us and gave Elliot's foot a good stomp. He jolted awake, sitting up straighter. You're lying. I tapped his playbook helpfully as he rubbed his eyes. Right. He leaned over and stumbled through the lines as Mrs. Roberts passed us. Sorry. It's fine. To be honest, I wouldn't mind a nap myself. Tired? You don't have to pretend I don't look it. Well, you're kind of pale, to be honest. Come on, class is nearly over. We've got this. He shot me a tired smile. We both leaned over to focus on reading until the bell rang. Class passed quickly enough. I barely survived trig. Spencer was back to totally pretending I didn't exist, which was probably for the best. I didn't have the energy to care anymore. I just ignored him as well, and I planned to do the same during chemistry. Staying awake was the issue at hand. Sleepwalking was physically draining, and dealing with Spencer was emotionally draining. I just felt exhausted. During the passing period, I found myself leaning my head against the door of my locker, staring inside vacantly. I was contemplating the risk of sneaking up to club and trying to skip class. Mostly for a nap. I only had a few classes under my belt for the day, and already my head was hurting, and there was a distinct buzz in my ears. I rubbed my head, wishing my ears would stop ringing, but it was only getting worse. The hallway and noise around me faded, and the buzz in my head grew even louder. Beneath it, faint and difficult to make out, I thought I could hear words. A soft chant that became clearer and clearer, and the more I tried to reach for it, it sounded almost like a song or a poem. Sometimes I pleased you. Times I pleased you, dear mother learned lessons and to play, and dearly I loved little pale brother whom other bird have called away. My vision darkened, and everything else completely disappeared until the words were ringing loudly in my head. Why did they bring me here to make me not quite bad and not quite good? Why, unless they're wicked, do they want in spite to take me back to their wet wildwood? I shall grow up, but never grow old. I shall always be very cold. I shall never come back again. I jolted awake as someone shook my shoulder, and I realized I was still standing at my locker with someone behind me saying my name. Nora! I tried to shake off the haze as I glanced back at Danny. Did I just fall asleep? Standing up, because that was definitely a new skill. Nora. I rubbed my face and gave him a tired smile. What? You looked very away. You looked away self-consciously. I'm sorry. You seemed... Danny peered at me again. You okay? Yeah, just tired. I haven't been sleeping well. I think I just dozed off while getting my books. Worry creased his brow. And he didn't seem to buy that. Instead, he just watched me, looking like he wanted to say something more. You were just whispering to yourself, so I was worried there for a sec. Whispering? What was I whispering exactly? Well, it sounded like a poem or something. Your voice sounded a bit strange. I leaned my head back against the locker, frowning. So I've been saying that poem out loud. I needed to be more careful. At least Danny had woken me up before I did anything too weird. Considering Elliot knew about the sleepwalking, Danny probably did as well. It's hard to imagine Elliot not mentioning it. Well, a lot of weird stuff has been happening to me lately, so... Danny regarded me carefully. You mean the sleepwalking? I knew it! Among other things? What other things exactly? I don't know, weird dreams? Or maybe they aren't even dreams. Maybe the sleepwalking really isn't sleepwalking. What else would it be? Blackouts? Some sort of fake fugue state? I don't really know. It just worries me a lot. Well, I can understand that. It's frightening to have a situation where you're not in complete control of yourself. I gave him a long look. Yeah, he probably understood that better than anyone with his werewolf transformations, though I wasn't really entirely sure how those worked. How's your research been going? I know you've been reading a lot in the afternoons while we're out. Yeah, you haven't found much, to be honest. While those books have a lot of information, but it's not exactly easy to cross-reference things and locate specific information, at least not about fairies. Well, they're a pretty diverse group. I'm sure there's a lot of information to sift through. I'll say. I'm sure you'll find something. I know everyone's been too busy to help you out since joining the club, but that won't be the case for much longer. I know, Samhain. The agency keeps us pretty busy this time of year, but when it's all over, maybe a lot of us can sit down and help you out with this. I appreciate the gesture. I'm hoping to have found answers of my own by then. I don't have a lot of time with this brownie problem. Understandable. He set his hand on my head, giving it a few playful squeezes. I'm sure it'll work out, okay? Thanks. Come on, we should head to class. I shut my locker and we walked together for a few minutes before splitting up, each go to our next class. When lunch rolled around, I decided it wasn't really up for more fairy meetings or orchestrated gatherings. I just wanted a normal lunch. Getting so wrapped up in all the supernatural things was just starting to overwhelm me a bit. I needed a break, and unfortunately I wasn't sure anyone in the club really understood that. I didn't know if Drayson or the others would be looking for me, so I hid in the school bathroom until the bell rang, and then hid in the nearest empty classroom to read. The club was way more comfortable, but I had a feeling that if I tried to read there, I'd get pulled into the courtyard for lunch. I just really needed to get away from all that. I slid into a desk and breathed a sigh of relief as I pulled a book out of my backpack. I'd gotten so sidetracked later, it was hard for me to reach on my focus on my research. Especially annoying, since my original goal was to try to find answers about why I keep disappearing as a kid. What might have happened to Spencer? It wasn't like I was just doing some casual research with no real purpose. I pulled my journal out of my bag and for the first time in a few days, took a few minutes to document everything that had been happening. Keeping a record of everything wasn't just helpful for research, it's just also a bit cathartic to write down what I could remember. It helped me look at things from a logical perspective instead of just panicking about it. I paused as I wrote down what happened at my locker earlier. What was that thing I'd been hearing? Something about a pale little brother? I made a note to go through my books that evening and see if I could find it. No, I don't know that it was relevant. It would drive me nuts otherwise. In a way, it almost felt like the sleepwalking episodes, just less intense. And it hadn't happened while I was awake. I chewed my lip as I thought about it. Maybe it was just because I was already so tired. Maybe it just meant the sleepwalking wasn't really sleepwalking, which was kind of what I've been feeling all along, but I didn't know what else to call it. I didn't know how to research under any other word. I opened the book in front of me, Encyclopedia of Fairies and Lore, and started reading where I'd been before. Snatches of the poem flitted back to me as I tried to read. Do they want, in spite, to take me back to their wet, wild wood? Take me back to the woods. Fairy abductions. I flipped back toward the beginning of the book section I had just scanned before and turned to a new page in my journal and quickly wrote a single word at the top of the page. Changelings. I felt so much better by the time school was over. I was still tired, but the much needed time alone during lunch had really helped me to refocus myself enough to get through the day. I was feeling a bit more like myself when I dropped my books at my locker and quietly shut the door. I was also feeling accomplished after using my study hall and free period to work ahead in trig and chemistry a bit, and that way I wouldn't have to worry so much about class and could focus more on other things. There were only a few minutes left before the final bell, so I figured I'd go ahead and go out to the club, avoiding the rush of students at the end of the day. I stretched thinking about the research I'd started earlier. I wasn't sure if it was another dead end or not, and I sort of hoped it was. I didn't really want to think about what it would mean if I was a changeling. But there were some interesting parallels and warranted looking into. I was so lost in thought that I nearly didn't see Brenna lurking up ahead of me. But when I realized she was standing at the bottom of the stairs as if waiting for someone, I panicked and ducked in another hallway. I really did not want to deal with her at the moment. I went a little way down the side hall and pressed myself to the wall, wondering what she was doing. Hopefully she'd go away if I gave her a few minutes. I do understand your situation, but I can't continue to allow you to skip class. My ears perked as I heard a muffled voice come from inside the class next to me. Mrs. Roberts? She sounded like she was lecturing someone. Not wanting to overhear, I started to move away until I heard another familiar voice. If you understand, then I don't see why it's a problem. Ewan. I paused curiously. It sounded like he was getting in trouble for skipping so much. Not totally surprising. You can't continue to hide from the world simply because you're Fae. It's not just that. I do understand why my class is particularly difficult for you at the moment, but you're going to fail if you don't start showing up. You don't understand this at all. I gave you the opportunity to supplement your grade by joining the drama club. You think I can get on stage again? Like this? Up on stage? What? You can always function as a member of the backstage crew instead, given your history. I don't want that. I don't want to join the drama club. I don't want to go to your class. I don't want to be in this stupid school at all. I realized I was eavesdropping on an obviously private conversation. I quickly started away from the door. Definitely had not been meant to overhear that. The door behind me flew open and Ewan stormed out just as the bell rang. He rushed past me through the students filing in the halls without even noticing me. I felt a pang of guilt as having overheard that. Biting my lip, I followed after him without giving it much thought. I was fighting against the stream of students heading to the front as I followed Ewan. Fortunately, he was tall enough that I could easily see where he was where he was. He seemed to be heading for the stairs. Despite that, he just stormed out of the class. He was walking pretty slowly, almost stumbling through the students. Is he okay? I tried to push my way closer to him. Ewan, wait! I didn't catch up to him until I had nearly reached the stairs. Fortunately, there were far fewer students on this end. Only one small pocket of them loitering at the opening of the next hallway. I grimaced as I noticed Kara and a couple of her friends, but tried to ignore them. They were the least of my worries. I actually was wondering about Kara just a little bit ago. Like, what's been up with Kara? Ewan looked like something was wrong with him. Something more than just being upset by an unpleasant conversation. Oops. Yeah. Ewan! He paused and turned back to me. His expression was slightly dazed, like he was half asleep or something. It felt off. Something was definitely wrong. He bent over slightly, right as another student barreled out of the nearby hall. The other student's book bag connected with the side of Ewan's skull. Ewan didn't really react, but from my angle, I could see his head tilt at an odd angle, as if it was about to fall. It was a little sickening to see it hanging sort of off kilter like that. I froze, eyes wide. There were other students right there. They probably couldn't fully see what was happening from their angle, though. Ewan put one hand at the side of his head, but he seemed really out of it. Sluggish. Weird. A little wisp of green smoke slipped out, and with no one else from around the club around, I did the first thing that popped into my head. This is the first one. I'm not sure what I would do. I feel like if I try to go help him, I'm just going to fail. Because I don't know what I'm doing. Clearly. So I'm going to try to distract everyone else. I staggered forward, suddenly shoving my book bag off one shoulder, causing my books to cascade to the floor and slide every which way. I wasn't much of an actress, but I tried for the dramatic stumble before falling to my knees in the middle of my scattered school supplies. Those nearby bursts into laughter and applause as I scrambled to pick up my things. I was just glad there weren't many of them there to witness that. Sorry about that. I snatched my backpack and started shoving things inside it while keeping one eye on Ewan. He seemed to snap out of it and watched him sort of surreptitiously straighten his head. The way he gave it a slight twist back into place made my stomach turn, but it seemed like the crisis was averted more or less. He quickly retreated into a nearby class, so I assumed he wasn't quite out of the woods yet. Uh-oh. Absolutely no one helped me gather up the books, the research journal, or the pens that had scattered everywhere. I did so quickly on my own, and then went to check on Ewan. I found him seated at the desk in the classroom, leaning over with his elbows on his knees, resting his head in his hands. I hesitated at the door, unsure what to do. You alright? Ewan sat there, still silent, as the seconds ticked by. Ewan. What? Just, are you okay? Do I look okay? Well, I mean, his head was on, so that was a good thing, right? What was that anyway? What were you trying to do? Help? Create a distraction? I don't need your help. I deal with this thing every single day. I beg to differ. You were 2 seconds from moving your head out there, literally. I know you meant literally. I winced as he raised his voice. I don't really get why you're angry, but you can stop shouting at me like now. He seemed to deflate at that. He squeezed his eyes shut and turned away, dragging his hands through his hair. Unfortunately, the head stayed put this time. Not that there was anyone else around to see it fall off now. Just leave. Fine. Sulk alone. The next time it looks like you need help, I'll just stay away. And you know what? Next time you're tempted to offer me help, don't bother. I don't need this. Sorry, I thought we were friends or something. I left him there, slamming the door on my way out, and headed up to the club. What a jerk. Yeah, he could be nice, but those mood swings were not something I could put up with. He didn't get to be nice one minute and bite my head off the next. Not okay. Especially since I had just been trying to friggin' help. I stalked up to the club, flopping on the sofa, still pissed off. This is why I need to just mind my own damn business from now on. I yanked out my books and journal, and not even seeing the words, I flipped through them. Took a deep breath. Let it out slowly, trying to calm down enough so I could focus. I lost my study time in the morning, so I really need to make progress this afternoon. Setting aside the book in my hand, I went to retrieve a different one from the stash of the bookshelf. Someone had relocated them to the top shelf. I stretched, but I couldn't quite reach them. Let me guess. was just about ready to scream frustration when there was a rustle behind me and a leather-clad arm came into view, pulling out the book I'd been after. I could have written that. I whirled around, glaring at Ewan as I snatched the book from him. I don't need your help. I tried to push past Ewan, but he grabbed my arm, and at that moment, I nearly slapped him across the face. Let go! Ewan let my arm go quickly before looking down at his feet. Sorry. What do you want? I just want to apologize. I'm sorry for snapping at you. I shouldn't have. I know you were trying to help. I'm just not used to that. I usually deal with it alone, and I just hate people seeing me like that. I hate it. I hated the idea of seeing that again. I hated the idea of you seeing that again. I shouldn't have yelled at you. You didn't deserve it at all. That was just my own frustration at the situation. I shouldn't have taken it out on you or made it your problem. Wow, he's being thorough. I made such a show of rescuing you from my brother this morning, and here I am just being as bad as he is. Worse. Such an idiot. I'm not going to argue with that. I crossed my arms over my chest and looked up at him. I'm sorry I didn't want to bother you. That's all. He turned away, but I rolled my eyes and grabbed his sleeve. Listen, I'm sorry I butted in when maybe I shouldn't have. You just looked like you needed help. I just thought a distraction would help, that's all. It did help. And I appreciate that you cared enough. I was just upset you witnessed that. I hate other people seeing it. I'm really sorry for being angry. Well, you're forgiven this time. Ewan looked around awkwardly as if unsure what to do next. Thanks for the book. I mean, it's always nice to have a giant around to get things on the top shelf. I'm not a giant. You're just short. Nope. I'm definitely normal sized. So we're okay? Yes. But next time you yell at me, I can't be blamed for kicking you in the shins. I'll remember that. I went back to the sofa still feeling a little bit awkward, but glad he'd come to apologize. Ewan hesitated and then joined me. So still researching? Yeah, I need to find a way to make friends with the brownie. Because of your brother? I mean, I'm just sick of fighting with him over it. Do you happen to know how he made it mad? Not really. Fairies are pretty easy to offend. They're notorious for their bad tempers. Oh, really? I never would have noticed that. Every fairy I've ever met has been totally calm and collected the entire time. The brownie, Brenna, you, very funny. I just don't think he's done anything. I mean, it started pranking him the first Monday after he moved in, and that was the first time the keys and shoes went missing. Like, literally day one, basically. So he had to have made it mad in the first few days. All he did was... Realization suddenly hit me. Oh, for the love of... What is it? He kicked the mushrooms. We have a fairy ring in our backyard, and on our first day in this house, Spencer was trying to provoke me and kicked over some of the mushrooms. Ewan face-palmed. That's probably what did it. Great. I'm not much of an expert with brownies, but I can help you look for a specific way to make it forget its little grudges. Really? Consider it my way of making up for being a huge jerk. Okay, let's see what you can find. The awkwardness slowly faded as he helped me look for something useful. He figured leaving gifts out might work, but he wasn't totally sure what would be the best kind since some gifts actually make it mad. Still, having someone to help me guide through some research and offer a news perspective was so much nicer than working alone. We worked for an entire hour. By the time it was time to go home, I nearly forgotten about our earlier spatter entirely. Ewan finally stood and stretched. I was amused at how close he came to touching the ceiling. So, ride home? Sure, just let me tell Ollie. Pull out my phone and send a quick text to let her know I had a ride. Hey, heading home with Ewan. That okay? Yeah, it's fine. I'm going to be late anyway. Wanted to bring Shelly to talk about sleepwalking. No time today. Sorry. It's fine. We'll do it tomorrow? Definitely tomorrow. We'll let you know when. By the way, riding with Ewan again? Shut up. Have fun. I rolled my eyes at her. Jeez, such a pain. Where go? Alright, come on. One freezing, somewhat terrifying ride later, we pulled up in my driveway. I wrestled the helmet off and handed it back to Ewan, my hair clinging weirdly to my head. If my dad notices me, he told me to never, speak to him again, right? I managed to climb off with a semblance of grace this time. Thanks again. No problem. See you tomorrow? Ewan hesitated. You sure? I gave him a small smile. Yeah, well, I guess so. Couldn't see his face behind the visor, but he nodded before slowly riding back out into the street. I waited until he was gone before heading inside. Mom was in the kitchen humming to herself, and for a moment I thought about going in and telling her what Spencer did that morning, but I was tired of fighting and shouting at bad news. Instead, I just called out to let her know I was home and headed upstairs. I had 2 pages of notes on brownies and one solution to try to appease it, which may or may not work depending on how mad it actually was. We'd also found a method to basically kick it out of the house completely, which that one would definitely work instantly. I just needed to find the right ingredients. Ooh. That would solve the problem right away, but I wasn't sure I wanted to. It felt wrong somehow. But my sanity was at stake, Spencer's life, because I was definitely going to strangle him if he kept being a jerk over the pranks. Oh, I don't want to kick out the brownie. I don't want to do that. But it's not helping. He's not helping at all. I'm going to let him stay. In the end, I was going to try to appease it first. I could always reserve the whole banishing thing for making friends didn't work. And that's true. You always have it in the back pocket. I was just going to have to find the right moment to do it, because apparently the easiest way to Brownie's heart was through its stomach. But I didn't think I could set out a bowl of milk without Mom noticing. I need to find out out of the way spot. Maybe the basement. I could try to do it after dinner when everyone else was distracted. I only hoped that doing so would finally fix things. If not, I'd have to take stronger measures. I was so over fairies and their weird personalities. I thought about you and maybe not all fairies. Anyway, I had a mission. For now, I'd focus on that, and I guess I'd finally find out well it worked in the morning. Chapter 3, Boil and Bubble. I was in the foyer, but wasn't sure how I got there. I wasn't alone. I couldn't see them clearly. They bobbed in and out of the shadows, eyes gleaming in the faint light. They were fairies, or that's what I assumed them to be. What else would they be? Strange eyes peered at me from every direction. The air was filled with the soft hum of moth wings and murmuring voices. I couldn't understand what they said, but I knew I should understand it. The language was strangely familiar. Where have I heard that? I was afraid, or at least part of me was, but that part warred with the comforting feeling of belonging. At the back of my mind, I wondered how the rest of my family hadn't woken up. I wondered how all the fairies got in the house in the first place. Why were they here? It was then that the strangely familiar face stepped out of the shadows. Is it the brownie? Yes, the brownie. It stood in front of me, both serious and silent. If you give a mouse a cookie, he's brought his friends for knowing that he spilled the beans, that this is a great place. Brownie looked at me, almost pleadingly, holding out his hand. I could only just see it through the haze, a small brown figure that was only the familiar thing around me. I took its hand. The instant we touched the fairies, or the things I thought were fairies, blew around us with an angry hiss, and they were gone. In my head was a whisper, piercing, chilling. You promised! But in an instant it was gone, with the dream and the fairy intruders, and I was standing, awake but groggy in the foyer, and the brownie was still tightly gripping my hand. They led me back upstairs into my room. I followed awkwardly, bending over, and I tried to hold on. My mind was struggling to figure out what had happened. I was about to sleepwalk, but the brownie brought me back? Sleepwalking again? That was obvious, but had this fay downstairs been real? And if so, how did they get in the house? Brownie had gently led me back to bed, and because I was still half asleep, I followed obediently. It finally let my hand go, and I snuggled down as the blankets were drawn up again and tucked around me. Something clambered into the bed beside me, and long fingers gently stroked my hair. This is weird. At the same time, it's sort of sweet and comforting, and I don't know. It was nice to have an ally to help keep me inside at night. I was glad I didn't banish the poor thing. My eyes grew heavy, and I felt myself drifting off to sleep. Thank you. I murmured the words as my eyes slowly closed. It gave me a long, almost sad look before hopping over to sit on the end of the bed. Weird or not, I felt safer with it sitting there, looking over me. With that, I finally slept. Aw, that's nice. Ooh, we're October 21st. 9 more days, or 10 more days. My head was pounding as I sat up in bed. Felt like my eyelids were weighted to 50 tons, and there was nothing in the world I wanted more than to go back to sleep. How am I so tired? Like, I was sleepwalking for, what, a minute? But I had to get up. Mom had already shouted up for me, and I really didn't want to deal with questions about if I was getting sick. I was already leery about facing everyone in the morning. Whatever had happened last night had already faded into pleasantly fuzzy space between dream and memory. Couldn't quite remember it all, but it felt like I was wandering around the house quite a lot. Okay, well, I guess I had no real knowledge of how long I was walking. I don't know what else happened. I rubbed my eyes and rolled out of bed reluctantly. A quick stop in the bathroom revealed what I looked as bad as I felt. Man, I had to stop that sleepwalking and weird dream stuff, if only for the sake of my poor face. I wonder what helps with bags under eyes. Cucumbers or something? I made a face at myself and stopped, giving myself a long, unhappy look in the mirror. Get your act together, girl. I was looking forward to Allie and Shelly helping find a solution for this stuff. I threw on my clothes and shoved everything in my book bag before heading downstairs. Spencer was sitting at the kitchen table, his face looking pretty tired, as if he hadn't slept well either. I really hoped that wasn't because he'd been watching me sleepwalk. That'd be annoying, to say the least, not to mention extremely concerning. Talk about questions I don't want to answer. I side-eyed him as I poured myself a cup of coffee. The car keys were sprawled next to him on the table, so I assumed they either hadn't gone missing for a change or that he'd already located them. Did I appease the brownie? Maybe the treat I managed to sneak to the basement worked. I wanted to ask, but how do I do it without starting a fight? Yeah, how do I ask him, like, hey, is any of your stuff gone? You know, the stuff you think I keep taking? Let's ask if he slept okay. And he's gonna say, well, what do I look like? I slept. I chewed my lip, but finally decided to initiate a conversation. Just to sound things out a bit, if he decided to be a jerk, I could just flee. So, did you sleep okay? He glared at me. Never a good sign. Someone was making a lot of noise last night. Or he just asking so you could find out if you woke me up. Whoops. To be fair, that wasn't my fault. Not that I could explain it to him. I sighed softly and got my things. I just go out and wait for Allie. Oh, I thought Ewan was taking me to school. It felt so oppressive inside these days, like a black cloud was hanging over everything, like the smallest thing would set off another argument. Hated it. It was stifling. That thought gave me a slight pause. Stifling. I had that thought in my dreams as well, hadn't I? Was it possible the whole thing was really just stress, and I was just acting out some kind of unconscious desire to get away from Spencer? Well, that didn't feel right either, to be honest. It felt more like that somehow. And last night, I had the feeling there were definitely fairies involved in my dream or whatever it was. I don't know anymore. I didn't have time to ruminate on it. Allie's car pulled up in front and she waved at me through the window. I climbed in the car and flopped against the seat with a long, painful sigh. Morning to you too, sunshine. I feel like death. You look like it. What happened? I think I was sleepwalking again. I don't remember what happened. Are you okay? I think so. Please tell me where we're going to have time for that solution you talked about. Definitely. We're going to get this sorted out today. I promise. I just hope it works. Me too. I leaned my head against the window and shut my eyes, letting the sound of the car lull me into some sort of half asleep. It was only a short trip, but it helped a little. It didn't feel quite like my head was going to implode by the time we reached school. Nora? She gently shook my arm. What? Maybe you should sleep it off in the club room. I shook my head as I tried to rub away the sleepiness. I can't keep missing classes. Someone's going to tell my parents eventually. You look awful. Well, if we can at least keep me in my room at night, I'll probably sleep better. So just one more day of zombie, Nora, hopefully. Allie and I climbed out, intending to split up as we always did, but I paused when I saw Ewan and Drayson walk by, chatting together. Huh. What is it? I didn't really believe they were friends. Yeah, it's kind of funny seeing them together. Opposites attract. Allie grabbed her bag out of the back seat and headed inside. I need to go to the office, so I'll see you later. Sure. I watched her go before heading in myself through one of the entrances near the stairs. As I approached, I realized Drayson was standing there alone. Ewan wasn't around anymore. I wondered where he went. Drayson was standing under a large tree, both arms up as he apparently examined one of the branches. He appeared to be mumbling quietly to himself. I raised an eyebrow. What was he doing? Well, given that he was a unicorn, or who even knew? Freaking unicorn. It was so ridiculous I couldn't even help but smile at myself. This was the world I lived in now, equal to parts ridiculous and terrifying. Well, maybe slightly more on the terrifying side. Otherwise, I'd be able to enjoy the ridiculous part a bit more. I shook my head and headed his way, planning to go past him and let him do whatever he was doing. As I neared him, I realized a couple of other people had also noticed him there. Ugh, why is it always her? It was Kara, of course. And that cute blonde girl that always hung around her. What was her name again? Emily? Emmer? Is he talking to a tree? What a weirdo! Drayson didn't seem to hear them or paying them any mind, but it really irked me to hear what they were saying. Why were people like that? Drayson wasn't hurting anyone. Why not just leave him alone? I scowled at the two of them as I passed. Is talking about other people your hobby or something? If so, you guys definitely need to find a new one. Maybe take up knitting or something. Nora. How did he hear me, but apparently not them? I shot him a smile as he bounded over to me. Hey, Drayson. Well, you're just bouncing around from guy to guy so desperately these days, aren't you, Nora? I think I rolled my eyes so hard I sprained something. Bouncing around? Seriously? That is your chosen direction of attack. Oh, okay. Sorry if you think I'm having more than one male friend constitutes desperate bouncing. Whatever that means. You're the same as you've always been. I can't believe I thought you might have changed. Oh, you never thought that. You didn't even give me a chance. The first day I was back, you were sniping at me and spreading rumors. Sniping at me and spreading rumors. So stop with all this disappointed parent crap, Kara. You and your crazy brother should just have stayed away. Crazy? Did you just call Spencer crazy? As soon as she said that, I just snapped. There was just a repeat of middle school, but this time I wasn't going to let people talk about him like that. I stalked to Kara, and before she could say another word, I drew my hand back and slapped her. Whoa. What the heck are you doing? She tried to shove me away and get between me and Kara. Never call Spencer that, ever. Kara stood there with her hand at her cheek, staring at me. Nora. He grabbed my arm and pulled me away. I let him because, well, I wasn't interested in a cat fight, but Kara had that coming. You're crazy too. The two of you have always been crazy. You ran away twice just for attention without caring who you hurt. That isn't what happened and you know it. Her voice was edging into hysterical as Emery spoke quietly to her and tried to pull her away. Even your stupid brother ran away once. Is this some kind of genetic defect, or are two of you just sick or something? Why? What? Spencer ran away? Where on earth had she heard that? That never... The retort died on my lips as an old memory surfaced. I was sitting in our old house with Grandma. We were waiting for the other adults to come back. I was scared because Spencer... The thought was shattered by an explosion of pain behind both eyes. I doubled over and gasped for air as the world tilted. Nora! I felt his arms around me, keeping me on my feet as my legs gave out. Oh. There was the taste of vomit at the back of my throat as my stomach roiled in protest at the way the world apparently suddenly decided to take a crazed ride on a merry-go-round. Everything was spinning. I wasn't sure I could stay standing. Wow, you can't answer that, so you're going to just pretend to faint? You can never get enough tension, can you, Nora? Or are you just that sick in the head? You're the one ignoring someone obviously in pain. Doesn't that make you the sick one? Through the haze, I recognized Ewan's voice. Two of you should just get out of here. Come on, Kara. I didn't see the two of them retreat. I was too busy staring at the ground because it was the only thing not spinning. Oh, what on earth was that? The pain was starting to fade, but I was still pretty woozy. If I moved too fast, I was definitely going to puke. And considering Drayson was in the splash zone, that would have been very unfortunate. He always dressed in expensive-looking clothes, too. You okay? I don't know. Should we carry you to the nurse? Please don't. I would rather not deal with more rumors. What happened? I'm not sure. Just suddenly had an incredible pain. Everything started spinning. It's fading a bit. Jeez, I straightened carefully, putting a hand on my head as if that would stave off the dizziness. You should at least go up to the club to rest for a while. Violet can probably get you out of the first period. Yeah, okay. Maybe I should. What was that memory? It already faded beyond recall again. Ewan and Drayson both walked me up the stairs. Drayson was the one supporting me most of the way, though I wasn't totally sure I needed it. But I didn't really want to tackle the stairs while dizzy, so I leaned on him just in case. Drayson quietly caught Ewan up on what was happened before he showed up. I didn't have much to add, really. I just focused on making my wobbly legs work right. As soon as I got to the club, I sank into the sofa and buried my face in a pillow. Why'd I have to run into her first thing this morning? Not how I wanted to start my school day. Ewan joined me on the sofa with a soft sigh. I heard Drayson make an excuse and quietly leave the two of us alone. You okay? No. Sounded like that was pretty intense. Well, she had it out for me from the start, so whatever. People are good at being cruel when they want to be. That's true. I finally looked up at Ewan, but his face was inscrutable as ever. He wasn't wrong, and I guess that didn't just apply to people like Kara. It applied to people like us as well. Kara's an annoyance, but just that. I don't know what happened out there. She said something and suddenly my head was hurting and I was dizzy. What'd she even say? I don't really remember, to be honest. Weirdly, the whole thing is fuzzy after that. You've been pretty stressed out, lady. Yeah. I really didn't think that could explain nearly passing out in the middle of a conversation. Oops. Might as well say, sure. Then again, sleep deprivation could wreak some pretty nasty havoc, and I definitely had not been getting enough restful sleep late. Yeah, maybe it was just that. Ewan stood and offered me his hand. What? Come on. Where? I was just gonna say to the cafeteria area. I took his hand hesitantly. He pulled me to my feet, and without answering, he led me to the door. He knocked quickly, and we were soon stepping through to the courtyard. What are we doing here? You want to go to the class? No, not really. So let's stay here for a while. Ewan is gonna be in so much trouble. He's skipping class too. Is this where you usually spend time when you're skipping class? He shot me a long look. I don't skip every class. I just don't like literature. I had heard him and Mrs. Roberts talking about that, but he didn't know I'd heard them that day, so I didn't say anything about it. It's my favorite subject, actually, especially now. I mean, the plays, Shakespeare, I really enjoy it. He didn't respond, but instead went to a spot on the other side of the courtyard under some of the trees there. He flopped down and patted the ground next to him. Let's talk about something else. Okay? I joined him, sitting and stretching my legs out next to his. Ewan snickered softly. Better not be laughing at how short your legs are. I was just thinking that. I'm not short. You're just a giant. Aren't fairies supposed to be tiny? He smirked down at me. Like you? Don't make me test how easy it is to knock that head off. Oh, he laughed quietly. That's so scary. He picked a few blades of glass, twisting them between his fingers. You should know by now, fairies are nothing like the stories. Nothing like Peter Pan or Sleeping Beauty. Yeah, I noticed. Though I mean, the whole flying with happy thoughts thing would be kind of fun. Only if you have enough happy thoughts to fuel you. Something about the way he said that gave me a pause. I watched him out of the corner of my eye as he stared down at his hands. I wondered why he was like this sometimes. I knew the head thing was weird and frustrating, but I don't know. Is it really that bad? You don't think you'd have enough? Happy thoughts, I mean? He shrugged. Maybe a few years ago, not so much anymore. Was it really that bad? Whatever happened when you turned into a full-fledged fae? He shot me a sharp look, but I just held my hands up awkwardly. Like he's the one that said, hey, don't beat around the bush. If you just want to talk about something, talk about something. And here I am talking about something. It's fine if you don't want to talk about it. It just makes me nervous. I drew my legs up to my chest. You're more experienced with this stuff than I am, but it seems like it's had a really negative effect on your life. I'm just now going through all this weird awakening stuff, so seeing you like this just makes me worry about what's in store for me. Ewan flung his bits of grass away and leaned back against the tree. I don't think you'll have to deal with what I dealt with. Your dad's not a Dillahan after all. No, but whatever parent fae ancestor I could have been anything. I mean, what if a sprout or tail or something? What's going to be hard to hide from my mom? And it still won't be as bad. You're not like I was back then. I didn't know what that meant. We didn't sit there long. It was nice as it was. It was feeling kind of antsy after what happened earlier. It was too hard to sit still, and I needed something to get my mind off things. I sighed softly and stood brushing off my pants. Leaving? I think I'm gonna go to class. You sure? Yeah, I think I need a distraction. I gave him a slightly sheepish smile, and I promised Danny I'd keep Elliot from falling asleep now that we're partners. He frowned slightly and looked away. Okay. I started back toward the door to the clubroom. Nora. Yeah? If you need something, you just have to ask me. I know that before I don't know everything there is to know about fairies, but I won't be weird about it again. I know. I left him there and I went back to the club. It was kind of a weird day. Kara kept strangely quiet about what had happened this morning. Probably because there wasn't much of a way for her to come out of it looking pristine either. She was only confident with her rumors when the incident at hand hadn't involved her. I was relieved to not have to deal with that, though. There was something else that was a little strange, though. It started as a prickle at the back of my neck. Just a weird feeling of being, watched. I might have dismissed it as paranoia if I hadn't been catching sight of the same two people lurking around during passing periods or lunch. Two people I didn't really usually see around as often. Drayson and Brenna. First I thought I was imagining it, but Drayson was kind of super obvious about trying to duck out of sight as if he saw me looking his way. Brenna was much more nonchalant about it, but it was kind of obvious they were following me around. By lunch I was ready to throttle them both until they told me what on earth they were doing. I hadn't managed to actually catch either of them though. They were annoyingly good at vanishing when I tried to approach them. But definitely wanted to ask them why they were following me around because I was a little annoying, not to mention weird. Oh, I can't just leave them alone? I gotta find one of them? You see, I've never really talked with Brenna, so to go and find and talk to Brenna feels a little unusual. I feel like I'd naturally want to talk to Drayson first. Let's find Drayson. I didn't want to deal with Brenna, so I was going to corner Drayson. But that meant waiting until after school, because I didn't want it to be in the crowded hallway where there was no other opportunity. Fortunately, though, he was easy to find, and even easier to bully. I'm sorry. We were standing at the top of the stairs on the 4th floor where, fortunately, there was no one else around. I wasn't following you. Yes, you were. You're obviously following me. He completely crumbled at that, covering his face with his hands. Felt almost bad about interrogating him. It was Brenna's idea. Is this some weird Fae thing? I'm one of you, so it's going around to stop. I'm one of you, so you guys are going to stalk me around? We were just worried. After this morning. I mean, you nearly fainted. How did Brenna even know about that? She wasn't there. I don't know, I didn't tell her. Maybe Ewan did. Otherwise, it meant she'd already been watching me before the argument with Kara. Listen, I appreciate the concern, but I don't need bodyguards. I wasn't trying to... I'm sorry. I'm not mad at you, okay? Just please stop following me around and watching me. It's a little creepy. Drayson peeked out from behind his fingers. Still has his hands over his face. You're really not mad. Of course not. It's just disconcerting to know someone's following me around, keeping an eye on me. If you want to check on me or make sure I'm okay, you can just ask, you know? Okay. So we have a deal? No more following me? He nodded. Good. We parted ways after that. I was just relieved it had been so easy to shut down that little bit of weird. Are all Fae this crazy? Or do they just go weird at this time of year? My phone chimed as I was about to start upstairs and I quickly dug it out of my pocket. Hey, come down to the parking lot. I'm with Shelly. We're ready to head to your house. On my way. I shoved it back in my book bag and quickly headed down. It looked like we'd be spending club time at my house working on the sleepwalking thing. After a quick round of introductions downstairs, we all hopped in Allie's car and headed to my house. We probably have an hour or two before Mom gets home. We shouldn't need that long. I probably didn't even need to come, but Allie thought it would be helpful. I quickly unlocked the front door and pushed it open. How's the brownie situation, by the way? Oh, I think it's better. I left some snacks out for it, and it seems to have calmed down. You have a brownie? Oh, how sweet. Yeah, well, you'd think that. But Spencer managed to piss it off, and it was pranking him like crazy for a while. Oh dear, how did that happen? Not totally sure, but I think it may have to do with the fact he kicked some mushrooms over in the fairy ring out back. That's the only thing I can think of, anyway. Shelly shot Allie a quick look. You have a fairy ring here? I looked from one to the other curiously. Yes? Is that an issue? We had one in our last house, too, and it was no big deal. Allie, you remember it, right? We used to play in it all the time. I've forgotten about it. But now that you mention it, can you show it to me? Sure. Surprised by this turn of events, I led them through the house and out to the backyard. I stopped just outside the ring and pointed to the shriveled remnants of broken mushroom caps. That's where Spencer kicked it. You can see it's already grown new ones. Shelly was frowning down at me pretty hard. Ewan didn't seem to think much of it, though. So I wasn't sure why Shelly was so bothered by it. I don't like this. Do you feel that, Allie? Feel what? Definitely gives off a weird feeling. I don't feel anything, though. Maybe it's because you're Fae. Well, fairy rings are supposed to be dangerous for humans. Maybe that's why it feels strange to you guys. Witches still count as mortals, right? I mean, I had no idea. I was still all new to this. We do. Nora, listen. Sometimes fairy rings are just mushrooms. Normal mushrooms growing in a wild, weird pattern. But sometimes they can form a gate to the fairy world. That's why they can be dangerous, considering your parents are human. And possibly Spencer. Yeah, this one could be a problem. If the brownie got that angry at your brother just for kicking a few mushrooms over, it's clear this one has some connection to the fairies, and with that weird aura it's giving off. Gates to the fairy world outside? Imagine what would happen if your dad tries to get rid of it or something, or if he mows it over. Brownie would completely freak out. I hadn't even thought about that. What do we do? There are ways to get rid of it without rousing the Fae, but it'll be tricky. It's not really my area of expertise. Nor mine. I think it'll take some time to put together. We'll have to do some research. Do you think the reason I'm sleepwalking has to do with this thing? To be honest, I don't know. I mean, it could. If that was the case, getting rid of it was definitely a good idea. It may take some time to figure out the exact source of that, but in the meantime, we have a short-term solution. Yes, please. It's definitely not going to get any better. Hopefully not getting worse? That's a matter of debate. What happened? I don't really remember much of it all. It's never all that clear in the mornings. What do you remember? Just feelings. The feeling of being suffocated or wanting to get out. Sometimes a memory of voices and music. It's all very vague. There's this feeling like my body is moving against my wheel, like someone else is controlling it. It's really disconcerting. We put something together to keep you inside at night, but it isn't a fix. I think it'd be wise to continue to look into this, see if you can find the root cause. I agree. In the meantime, let's go to your room. We'll show you what we brought. Up in my room, I flopped on the bed while Allie and Shelly looked around. Shelly poked her head into the bathroom. I assume you usually just head out through the main door? Yeah, I tried setting up little barriers, things to trip myself up, piles of shoes, whatever I can do without someone noticing. Sleepwalking me is a little too smart to fall for those kinds of things. She's apparently too smart to try to escape through Spencer's room too. He's a pretty light sleeper, so that definitely wouldn't go over well. Well, for now, I think my original plan will work. And what plan is that? She fished 2 little jars out of her bag and set them on my desk. What are those? Do you know what a fairy bane is? Yeah, I've read about the fairy plants. Banes are plants fairies don't like. More than that, some banes can actually be harmful or act as protection to keep them out. So we're gonna put like a force field of bad around. My idea was to try to use that concept to keep you in. She picked up 1 jar and held it up to me. I reached for it but hissed and drew my hand back the moment my fingers touched the glass. That's involuntarily. What is that? Burns? A little, I mean, it didn't hurt that much, just surprised me. A mixture of St. John's wort and some other fairy banes. I thought you could try sprinkling it on your door. And it'll create a low-level barrier that should keep you in, or at least wake you up if you try to cross it. To be safe, I put some on the window ledge too. We don't know how determined your sleeping self is, but it would definitely not be good if you tried to go out the window. Yeah, because I can't see that ending well for me unless sleeping me also has superpowers. The other jar, the one with the ribbon, that one is a dispelling mixture. You are eventually going to need to get out of your room. Yeah, can't imagine having to explain to my mom why I can't leave my room in the morning. You put it down over the barrier, it should counteract the effects and let you leave. I'm also making some water-based infusions for you, since I think it'll be easier to spritz that in the doorway rather than sprinkling plants, but it's not ready yet. In the meantime, you might want to stick with using gloves when you put down the barrier. Yeah, probably a good plan. And look, final word of warning here. You might want to keep an eye out for things that might be encouraging fairy activity here. Things? It's not usually for houses here in Pine Hollow to have brownies or other tutelary spirits, but in your case, to have the brownie inside and the fairy ring outside, have you seen any other fairies around? Well, there have been a few. I mean, aside from the Spriggan. I've seen a few other ones lurking around the yard. Most look pretty harmless, small, skittish, mushroomy. I think I've dreamed about them being in the house, though. I mean, I'm not really sure whether it was a dream or not, to be honest. I'm just worried because it's looking like you have some deep connections to the fairy that predate you finding out about your own heritage. And then, coincidentally, your parents happen to pick a house with a fae occupant. Fairies around outside and other fae activity. And then you started sleepwalking right away. And it may be a coincidence, but there may be other fairy magics at work. So what exactly do I keep an eye out for? Anything that looks out of place. Plants that shouldn't be where they are. Cut flowers that stay fresh for basically forever. Yesterday when I went to the basement to put out the milk for the brownie, I did find something. I just didn't think much of it. I thought the brownie made have put it there, so I left it alone. Can you show us? I nodded and led them back downstairs. It didn't take long to run down and get a little bunch of flowers I'd found, and several others I hadn't noticed the first time around. In the end, we had 5 bunches set out in the kitchen table. They all look pretty fresh, and all were tied together with some sort of twine. Primrose. And thyme. I think these are definitely fairy flowers. What is that scratching noise? Is that like some kind of dictionary it's keeping for me? They might have been gathered up by the brownie, but we should definitely get rid of them. Having them in the house can encourage other fairies to waltz right in. Ugh. Did you see anything else odd down there? Well, no, to be fair, I don't entirely know what I might be looking for besides weird bunches of herbs, but there was nothing else that didn't look like it belonged. I'm glad we checked. Glad I came over. I'm glad you guys know more about fairies than I do. I was seriously glad about that, because it had never occurred to me that a little bouquet of flowers might have some kind of ominous effect on the house. I did some research the past few days. I've been doing research for the last week. Well, I guess I do have enough experience to know what I look at. Listen, just keep an eye out for me for these things showing up. And if they do, toss them outside, not in the bin. Thank you guys so much. Anytime. And now I need to head out. Already? You guys can stay for dinner if you want. I'd like to, but alas, there's no magic spell for homework. What's even the point of being a witch? Right? We laughed and I showed them to the door. Lisa and Mom turned up now. I could shrug it off all as a study group and not a group of evil, conniving magical fiends imbuing the house with fairy banes. I watched as Allie and Shelley piled into the car and I waved them off. I was just hugging my arms against the cold and I was about to step inside when I heard the familiar growl of a motorbike. I ducked behind the eaves of the entranceway, watching as Ewan pulled up in Elliot's driveway. Weird, since there was no one home. Seemingly materializing from nowhere, a black cat showed up, walking along the top of the fence. I raised an eyebrow as Ewan picked it up and cradled it against his chest. It looked like he was talking to it. Is he stopping by to talk to Elliot's cat? Because that was weird, even by fairy standards. I shook my head and just went inside. I had other things to worry about. I ran my hands through my hair with a long sigh. And with that done, I had homework of my own. It was a little weird stepping back into the real world from an afternoon of potions and fairy magic. Paranormal didn't seem to just easily blend into real life to the point of becoming part of every day. Instead, it stood inside its own little realm where I usually pulled against my will. I had to move back and forth between that and normal life. It made it harder to get used to it all, and when it only seemed to rear its ugly head sometimes. But with luck, Ellie and Shelley visit today meant I'd have to deal with the more annoying aspects of the paranormal, far less for now. It's definitely going to look forward to that. Chapter 4. Alright. Ooh. So, we've gone through, 4 chapters of this. So this is the 4th chapter of Ewan's Route. But I think we spent an even 2 hours on each of these episodes. It's not necessarily easy to talk for 2 hours straight. I don't do that very often. So with that, I think I'm actually going to call it here for another break. But what's gonna happen? Nobody knows.